Hey, juniors. I want to talk about the effects of World War I and some other groups of Americans. So, Americans with disabilities were unfortunately deeply affected by World War I because there was this movement called eugenics that was really growing during this time. And eugenics is the idea that you can use reproduction, right? You can use making babies to create a better race. So you can pick people with desirable qualities. This person is tall, this person is fast, this person has blue eyes, and promote them procreating, having babies to get the desirable traits. This is a really ugly science. It was used to discriminate against different races. So with eugenics, this desire to make a better human race, a lot of people in America looked at people with disabilities as holding them back, as degrading the race, as making it worse. So without their permission, doctors were sent into these homes that took care of people with disabilities, and they would sterilize them. That means that they would, without their permission, perform an operation so that men and women could never have children, that they could never pass on genetically their disabilities. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said it was okay. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes says 3 generations of imbeciles, which means idiots, 3 generations of idiots are enough. So he said they were justified because we don't want any more people like them. During this time, 63,000 people with disabilities were involuntarily sterilized. So this eugenics movement is causing the sterilization of people with disabilities. Immigrants, Americans, they won World War I, but they felt like, what did they gain? They saw a lot of death. They saw horrible death with mustard gas in trenches, but America didn't get any new lands. Um, there was still a lot of tension over in Europe. So what did it solve? So with this, America is starting to become really insular. They're very prejudiced against immigrants after World War I. They don't want to be involved in the world. Once again, eugenics is picking up speed. Americans think that that whites are the greatest race. They don't like immigrants coming from other parts of the world. And Ford, remember, the Ford is a car. It was an employer of many, many Americans, right? Especially many immigrants. And they had a sociological department that would come to your house. And if you weren't acting American enough, they would fire you. So if you were speaking in your native language, if your food that you served for dinner wasn't American, you would lose your job. There is this heavy push to act and assimilate, right, to white American culture. The 4th of July becomes Loyalty Day. Public schools have the mission to Americanize students, that the immigrants were too old world. Forget about being from Bosnia. Get rid of your Bosnian culture. Embrace American culture. And IQ tests were invented around this time, and they were given to people in African Americans and immigrants scored lower. Well, usually these populations don't have access to school, but the people who supported eugenics said, oh, they have low IQ tests because they're less superior. The white race is more superior. So IQ tests were also used to prove that immigrants should be discriminated against. And so they would even do literacy tests. You could not enter the country or become an American citizen if you could not pass a literacy test. Mexican Americans are the exception to the rule in this time, but it's kind of for very ugly reasons. So in World War I, right, lots of men are gone off to fight, and America needs labor. Well, mining work and farming work was still considered men's work. And so who do they look to for work? They look to the Mexican population. And so all other immigrants had to take a literacy test to get into the United States. Why wouldn't Mexicans have to take a literacy test? Because they want them for work, right? They don't want to limit the number of Mexicans because they're desperate for laborers. So Mexicans were classified as white so that they could work in America. Also, there was this belief that Mexicans could be Americanized, and even though they were quote unquote welcome to work in the U.S., there was still segregation in the Southwest. Schools, hospitals, theaters. People did not want white children attending schools with Mexican children. And then finally, Asian Americans. So the US believed that Asians could not be Americanized. And so they also attended segregated schools. And it gets to the point where they can't even own land. And they are going to cut the immigration quota down to 0. They're going to say Chinese people can no longer come and be citizens of the United States because they're too different. They cannot be Americanized. And Chinese, I should say all Asian citizens, Japanese, Vietnamese, Thai. Okay, so go ahead and answer those questions in your OneNote notebook now.